You know, my dad loves action movies. He loves 80s action movies. 70s, there's some here and there, but there weren't that many on the VHS tape craze of the 80s and 90s, so we didn't have too many of those on tape. But what we did have when I was growing up was a plethora of 80s and 90s action movies on tape. He had this big foldable wooden little container that holds all these tapes, and he had tons of Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, Sylvester Stallone movies, Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, the Pierce Brosnan 007 movies. He had Costner movies. Is it Kevin Costner? Kyle Costner? The Yellowstone guy now. He was also in Waterworld, that's where I know him from. But the Costner movies, he had a bunch of those. He had a bunch of Wesley Snipes movies. He had a bunch of Bruce Willis movies. He had a bunch of Al Pacino movies. You get the idea. Action heroes in the 80s and 90s was this massive thing that sold. It sold lots. You would put an Arnold Schwarzenegger fronted action movie like Commando, and you would release that in June or July as a summer blockbuster, and people went to see Commando, and they loved it. They loved it. They were Terminator 2. They loved it. And my dad had Terminator 2 as well. You know, action movies were this huge thing, and they were a big part of my life when I was growing up, simply because I grew up with that type of thing. And so naturally we have movies like this that now seem to be more of a niche, that now seem to be more of a small wave success. This thing came out in January, and January is a joke amongst a lot of the reviewer crowd that it's the dumping ground for stuff that studios don't have a lot of confidence in. They just dump it into January because why not? But the funny thing is that January now seems to be the place to go to find interesting things, either unique ideas that nobody has confidence in, or old ideas that nobody has confidence in anymore. Plane is one of those movies that's an older idea that nobody has confidence in anymore. Plane is an action movie starring Gerard Butler, whom, if this was made in 1988-89, would probably have been played by Arnold Schwarzenegger as the pilot man. And then we have Mike Coulter, who plays a prisoner aboard Gerard Butler's plane. He's being extradited to, I want to say, Canada for a murder he committed 12 to 15 years ago or something like that. A long time ago. And he's been in France or something ever since. He's been in the French Special Forces. So he's a big army guy. He's big and capable. And so Gerard Butler works for a penny-pinching airline company. And to save gas mileage, they decide to have Gerard Butler fly his plane through and skirt the outer edge of a storm. And Gerard Butler mentions, I probably should take this route and not have to be in the storm period. That would be safer. But it would also cost a couple extra hundred, maybe even, $1,400 more in fuel. And so the airline company says, we don't want to do that. We want to save some money. Do it this way. And so Gerard Butler says, hey, you're the boss. And so he flies the plane through the storm, and the plane gets hit by thunder. And all of the electrics go out, and the plane starts to crash. And so Gerard Butler manages to land the plane in a jungled backwater island in the southern Philippine Islands. And this island is populated by militant separatists. And they capture all of Gerard Butler's passengers. And so Gerard Butler has to team up with Mike Coulter to rescue the passengers. and along the way they learn to work together, they get over their differences, and it's a very fun, very 90s aesthetic movie. It's a very pleasing movie. It doesn't break any new film grounds, but none of the movies of the 80s and 90s, action movies wise, ever broke any grounds like that, So nowadays we have action movies, when they do break ground, it's usually when we have all sorts of cool choreography mechanics like John Wick and his gun fu and all that stuff. But we don't really have too much of the old school action movie aesthetic. The type of thing that was briefly revived in movies like The Expendables, which was glorifying the old action movie heroes because it starred a bunch of the action movie heroes in a big event, and it was very fun. I loved the Expendables movies, and I love the classic action movies. This would be an action movie in 1988-89 starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, and maybe Wesley Snipes or somebody like that in this in the role, and it would basically be the exact same story. And instead of coming out in January, you'd release this in the fall. It would be a fall release. It could be a summer release. It would be a hit. It would be a movie that, with leading stars, it's in the era of, we watch the movie for the star, the action hero, not necessarily for the dime a dozen storyline that we put them in. We didn't watch Commando because it was this amazing, groundbreaking story. We watched Commando because Arnold Schwarzenegger was the leading character in it. We watched Blade because Gerard Butler was the leading character. He really is an action hero. This niche really is Gerard Butler's strong suit. This is the type of movie that he knows how to do, and he knows how to do it well. He's getting up there in the years, which means he may not have too many more years of being able to do this, maybe another decade or two, but I really appreciate Gerard Butler's dedication to this genre, very much like Jason Statham's dedication to this genre, and he's still going strong with all the action movies that he's still doing, and I appreciate it. I don't want action movies to die. Take a look at Plane. It's a very fun movie.